Chapter 4 Wildlife Conservation Club. Anojing Mugini is sitting dismayed in the classroom. Millie comes and asks, "Hey, why do you look so sad?" Anojing replies, "Oh, on my way to school, I saw a very wicked incident that made me feel sad." Millie says, "Look, I'm your friend. Tell me what you have seen." Anojing says, "Some fishermen caught a freshwater dolphin while they were catching fish in the river. A huge crowd gathered at the shore after it was brought here. Then a group of miscreants treated it as a dangerous animal and eventually killed it." Kushiapa overhears their conversation when entering the classroom. She says, "Anojing, you have seen an unbearable incident. The lack of consciousness among humans causes deaths to a huge number of endangered animals every day. Killing an endangered animal is a punishable offense. In fact, today we will work on this topic. Understanding the concept of environmental pollution and wildlife." Kushiapa shows the following images to everyone: Bengal florican, hyena, peacock, nilgai, pangolin, sloth bear. Then she asks, "How do you like the bird and the animals in the pictures?" Students reply in a body, "The animals in the picture are very beautiful." Appa asks, "Where can we find these animals?" Now everybody remains silent. Asad says, "Among them I saw peacock, bear and hyena in the zoo, but I have never seen the other animals." With a smile, Kushiapa asks, "Not in a zoo, but you have seen them in nature." Then she continues, "How would you feel if these animals were roaming around us? Maybe this is no more possible in Bangladesh, since these animals are no longer available here. None of them is alive in Bangladesh. They are already extinct. But even some days ago, many of them used to live in different regions of Bangladesh. Let's talk about peacock. Just 100 years ago, they were available in the Shar forest areas of Savar and other regions. Now she asks, do you know why these beautiful animals disappeared from Bangladesh? Again, everyone becomes silent. Only Shafiq says, perhaps people have destroyed many trees and forests and thus ruined the habitats of these animals. As a result, these animals left for the other places. Kushiapa does not make any comment on this and asks everyone to observe some more pictures. Picture of cutting down trees, unplanned industrials, and so on. When students have finished looking at the pictures, she says, "What do you think of these pictures?" Select a title for each picture and write that in the space given below the picture. Do you find any relation between the pictures and the extinction of wildlife? If yes, you can say what relation they have. Then she says, let's find out the answers to these questions by discussing in groups. Then all of them have made small groups of 5 to 6 members. They have discussed for 10 minutes and written down the answers. Then they make a group presentation. Let us follow the same process, work in a small group and find out the answers. Forming the Wildlife Conservation Club. Kushiapa asks everyone, who is responsible for these problems? Who has the responsibility to reduce these problems? We can think about these two and find out answers to these questions. After listening to everyone's answers, Kushiapa again asks, do we have any responsibilities as human beings? How can we play roles to protect wildlife and environment? Can we alone accomplish the task of conserving wildlife and the environment? All the students replied together, no, it would be difficult to accomplish it alone. Then she asks once again, in that case, how can we ensure our effective role in protecting the wildlife and the environment? In reply, all of them say teamwork can help us establish our effective roles. Next, she says to all, shall we make a club for protecting wildlife and the environment? We can work in a team there. Everybody get excited hearing this proposal. Anojing says, that's great. We can save our distressed freshwater dolphins then. After the decision of founding the club is finalized, Shadin asks, what would be the function of our club? At this stage, all of them form separate groups following the inclusion policy and then start reading the attached story titled Shyamoli. Shyamoli. Long ago, there was a scenic village. The specific location of the village is unknown to us. It was by the side of an enchanting river brimming with water. Its name was Shyamoli. The river flowed by one side of it. On the other three sides, there was a dense green forest. The village and the forest were full of trees and flowers of different colors. Attractive insects and birds used to fly on the trees of the village and the forest. A variety of splendid wildlife used to roam around the forest and jungles. Insects, animals, birds, and people all lived together in happiness and peace. Something unfortunate happened. Within a few years, grass and smaller trees began to gradually disappear. Then the number of tall trees slowly decreased. Rainfall also declined. Along with the plants, the number of insects, animals, and birds also began to decrease. Even more, rainfall dropped so low that rivers began to dry up. The greenery around disappeared. Everywhere around, dry brown color appeared. As river water and rainfall dropped low, crop yields in the field also began to decline. There were fears that if this situation continued for some more days, then there might be a shortage of food among the villagers. The village appeared very much lifeless and dull. Those who came to visit the village after long years could not recognize it. Is it the village that they call Shyamoli? Everyone simply wondered how the beautiful village turned into a dull place. However, no one knew how to get back to the earlier life of the village. In this situation, a group of boys and girls from the village got together. They thought that the situation needed a change. They decided to get back almost disappearing aspects of the village, the greenery, various colorful animals, birds, insects, and other river brimming with water. They did not know how to achieve this goal. One day, they sat together for a discussion. They wanted to figure out a solution. After the discussion, they found they did not know many necessary things about the problem. That is why they could not solve the problem. They did a lot of brainstorming and then they came up with some issues. Without understanding those issues, they could not solve the problem. Those were: what was the number of plants, animals, and insects in the forest? And what was the amount of rainfall and river water before? Second, what is the number of plants, animals, and insects in the forest now? And what is the amount of rainfall and river water now? Third, why did the number of plants, animals, and insects in the forest and the amount of rainfall and river water decrease? And fourth, what can we do to increase the number of plants, animals, and insects in the forest and amount of rainfall and river water? They were very happy to be able to identify the problems. Then they began thinking about how they could find answers to the questions. They also thought about where they could go and from whom they could find the answers. They came to know from their teacher that people at the office of the forest department in their village worked with wildlife and forest-grown trees. They could get answers from their questions from these people. Following their teacher's advice, they looked for information in the library of the forest department. They borrowed many books and reports which could offer answers to their problems. They studied those materials for quite some days. They came to know a lot of things about forests, trees, and animals in the forest. However, they failed to find a suitable answer. Although the information was related to their questions, it failed to offer any direct answer to their problem. The books and reports told them about the number of trees and animals in the forest in earlier times and in the present time. They noticed that at the start of the problem, the number of wolves dropped all of a sudden. Then the number of trees decreased quite fast, but the number of herbivores began to increase. They could not find any direct relationship between this scenario and that of Shyamoli village, so they again went to their teacher. After listening to their teacher said, You need to talk with someone who has a very good knowledge of forests and wildlife. Fortunately, there was a person in their village who conducted research on wildlife and the environment. So the students hurried towards him. The researchers listened to their problems and questions with much attention. He said, "It seems I have understood the problem you are talking about. At one time, all kinds of plants, birds, and animals in the forest depended on each other and they could live in peace. For example, grass and plants depend on soil for food, while deer, cows, and buffaloes survive by eating grass and herbs. On the other hand, wolves hunt herbivores such as deer, cows, buffaloes, etc. for food. Everything was going well. Problem began when a group of hunters in the village killed all the wolves on the pretext of ensuring safety of the village. Student asked, what is the relationship between arising the problem and the decrease in the number of wolves? The researcher explained, you may have noticed that all of the animals and plants of the forest depend on each other. The wolves hunted deer, cows, buffaloes, and the other herbivores for food. When there were no wolves, the number of herbivores, including the deer, increased quite fast. This is why you have found in the reports that when the number of wolves decreased, the number of herbivores increased. Student exclaimed, now we can understand. And as the number of herbivores increased, the vegetation dropped. The number dropped sharply because more herbivores ate up more plants. The researcher said, you got it right. As the vegetation decreased, so did the amount of rainfall in the area. As a result, the river water also dropped low. The surroundings became dry and dull. The students cried out in excitement. Now we have found out how the problem began. Now we have to figure out how to solve the problem. One of them said, we can plant a lot of trees so that the rainfall increases again. The remaining students said, but the herbivores will eat them up again. We can release some wolves in the forest instead, and they will reduce the number of herbivores and the previous balance in the forest ecosystem will be restored. And then the number of plants and insects, the amount of rainfall and the river water will increase. We can also plant trees in various places, build shelters for birds and animals and ensure food for them. One of the students said, the villagers should be wanted as well so that they do not kill any animals unnecessarily. But it is quite a complex task. How do we do it? So they again met their teacher. The teacher told them not to worry. He said, if you apply to the forest department with your research report, they can catch wolves from other forests to release them in our forest. Everyone became happy. One of them said, we can finish rest of the work together. The students did so. As a result, the loss of wild and the village Shyamoli was recovered within few years. The villagers also were saved from food crisis. After reading the story, Khushiapa tells them that they can find answers to the following questions from the story. How did the students of the story Shyamoli identify the problem of their locality? What did they do first to solve the problem? What initiatives did they take to solve the problem? Let us read the story Shyamoli and try to find answers to the following question. 1. How did the students of the story Shyamoli identify the problem of their locality? 2. What did they do first to solve the problem? And 3. What initiatives did they take to solve the problem? When all the teams present their answers, Khushiapa asks them, what type of activities would you choose for your club? At this stage, again, the students start working in groups of 4 to 6. They prepare a list of activities for their club. After the group work, each team presents their list. They use various media like poster papers. During the presentation, everyone logically analyzes the activities presented by them. Finally, they select some achievable to-do ones. They decide the member of the club would implement those individually and in teams throughout the year. Now let us identify the areas of work to do according to the reality of our locality. For your easy understanding, 3 examples are given below. We can keep these examples, or if we want, we can ignore them. 1. Plantation of fruit trees and forest-grown ones. 2. Conservation of wildlife habitat. And 3. Waste management in one's school and surrounding areas. When the list of tasks has been prepared, Khushiapa says, we have decided what we need to do. Now let's form a committee for the club to facilitate the smooth running of the club. Students start working in groups to make proposals on the following matters: total number of members, position, designation in the club, their respective jobs, eligibility of the general members, rights and responsibilities of general members. They make proposals on these areas and presented those in groups. Everyone participates in the discussion. They prepare a common structure for the committee and a description of rights and responsibilities. They assume the committee might find the tasks quite challenging. They may sometimes need suggestions from the senior people also. That is why they decide to include teachers of history and social science and science subjects as advisor, because these teachers know much about wildlife conservation. After this, they form their committee through an election. The new committee soon fixes a date for the first meeting. In this meeting, they make a plan for the future and start working immediately. Let us decide how the committee of the Wildlife Conservation Club can be formed. We will work together with our friends and select the members of the committee through an election.